Some controversy over at the link today, Rube. We have a lot of football to talk about, but we've got to lead the show with this.
I'm guessing you're talking about the dog Frisbee dogs at halftime.
There weren't Frisbee dogs. It was the Corgi Cup, Reggie's Corgi Cup. Two heats. They advanced to the finals. On the big board after the final race, McKee wins. They have McKee's face up there. Everyone's celebrating McKee. The owner of Tails tweets to me, they got it wrong. They had the wrong lane assignments. McKee did not win. It was Tails. Tails won the Corgi Cup today. Tails deserves his flowers. And I just, how does this happen?
I had a lot of money on McKee, so I thought I had won. I got winning tickets here.
No, you got to.
As soon as you said there was controversy, I know it had something to do with the halftime show without even knowing what the halftime show was.
Yeah.
Is there going to be inquest?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't had a chance to do my full investigation yet, but I do want to let everyone know that Tails was the rightful winner today, and Tails deserves a championship parade, perhaps.
Do they? No, never mind. It's not even funny. That's enough of that.
Okay.
Let's move on.
The Eagles win today. Doesn't really matter that they won, but it was a nice win over the Giants, 20-13, with their backups in the game. What really matters is we now know their playoff opponent for the wild card round, the Green Bay Packers, coming to Philadelphia next week. It was weird watching the Eagles game because I'm sure fans at home were the same way. Your eyes are kind of glued on the Packers and the Packers-Bears game, and then the Commanders-Dallas game. And for a while there, it looked like, maybe the Commanders are going to be here next week. But no, it will be the Green Bay Packers.
Yeah, and it struck me that it must be really nice to be on this side of that kind of playing scoreboard. Like a lot of times it's like, if this happens, they get in. But the Eagles were firmly ensconced in number 2, in the number 2 seed. First time ever they've been the number 2 seed. They were number 2 seed in 80, but they didn't go by. It wasn't a real bracket.
Leave it to the Eagles to wait until after you don't get a bye as the 2 seed.
Yeah, it's a shame. I still don't like that. But the Packers, look, it's a challenging draw for a number 2 seed in a wild card round.
Mm-hmm.
Usually you kind of expect like a 9-win, maybe a 9-8 team. You get kind of a walkover. The Packers are really good. But certainly it's a game that the Eagles could win, I think should win. And they already beat them once down in Brazil. Opening day seems like forever ago. But it's certainly a formidable opponent, but one I think they can handle.
Yeah, the timing was kind of crazy today. You and I were talking before we hit the record button on this podcast that the Eagles game flew by. And normally that's a great thing. We're excited about that. We get out of there early, get home and watch the night game. Today was a problem because I'm outside of the locker room waiting to go in, and we still didn't know their playoff opponent until right before. So I ended up telling a few Eagles players that they were playing the Packers in the first round.
Yeah.
It happened so late.
Yeah, it was interesting. I think it was under 3 hours. I didn't see the final time of the game, but I'm guessing it was about 2:53. Well, it got to be one of their fastest games in years.
Mm-hmm. And normally that's a great thing, except today.
Yeah, today you wanted to be.
I was hoping the other games would start to catch up.
Yeah, but it all worked out, and you get to work on the Packers. And they've played 3 times in the postseason. They're all memorable games in different ways. Yeah. 1960 NFL championship game at Franklin Field on a Monday. Obviously, they won the only postseason loss Vince Lombardi's ever had, or Bart Starr's ever had. And not like they're going to lose another one. So, and then the 2003 conference semifinal here, 4th and 26. The Dalk interception of Favre and 35-yard return to set up the game-winning field goal, overtime. And then the 2010 game, Eagles are down down 5, I believe, and they had a 1st and 10 on their own on the Packers 30. They had 4 shots to score and win it. 47 seconds left, and Vic throws into triple coverage to Riley Cooper, who had caught like 7 passes all year, and Tramon Williams, who was an All-Pro that year, picked them off, and the game was over. So a lot of history there. Certainly, I covered 2 of those games.
You sure? Just 2?
Yeah, pretty sure.
Okay.
Have covered my share of Penn relays at Franklin Field. You know what's interesting? I ran into Chip Kelly at Franklin Field during the Penn relays once, And we were talking about the 1960 NFL championship game, and I don't particularly like Chip. He's never the nicest guy
I'm sure
in the
the
world.
feeling's mutual.
But I'm sure it is. But we had a good chat about Franklin Field and the history, and he knew which side of the stadium the Jim Taylor the final play was. Chuck Bednarik stopping him at I guess it was the 9-yard line as time ran out. So you can get up now. The game's over, Jim. He knew everything about that. He was quite the historian of the game. But Jordan Love got hurt. What was it, an elbow?
Yeah, an elbow. Looks like everyone's saying like a funny bone, so it was like hurting his grip. It looks like he's going to be okay for that game. Yeah. Christian Watson, not so much. It was a knee injury. It looked like a non-contact, so hoping the best for him, but assuming he's not going to play next week.
Now, on the post-game show, Jaws said he had that specific injury, and he had a hard time throwing next week, he said. So
we've seen it with some other quarterbacks.
Yeah.
Brock Purdy not that long ago.
Yeah.
So it's something to monitor this week for sure.
Definitely.
The good news for the Eagles, Jalen Hurts was at the walkthrough on Saturday. Nick Sirianni didn't want to get into anything else about the quarterback, but all indications are that he's going to be able to get back to practice this week and play in that game. And the Eagles, I mean, they're healthy. They're a healthy football team. Resting the starters that's why you do it. They're going to have 22 of 22 starters entering the playoffs. Yeah,
this will be only the fourth game this year that A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, and Dallas Goedert all play. Mm-hmm. And that's just so valuable to have your three weapons for the quarterback. And look, I would have loved to have seen Saquon make a run at the record. It would have been a lot of fun. There's no question he would have gotten it at some point. I just think it's, as much as I would have loved to have seen that, I think it's the right call. Especially start thinking, like, I think he's only had 101 yards before the fourth quarter 6 times this year. So 10 out of 16 games, he didn't have it going into. Now, he didn't get it in all those games, but when he did get it, half the time it was late. And then he would have a big run or a big fourth quarter. But the last thing you want to see is it's the middle of the fourth quarter and he's like 18 for 81. And you're just handing him the ball every snap, trying to get him that record. And the Giants are crowding the box and stopping the run. And he's getting 2 yards here and 1 yard there. And you're just like, let's get him out of the game. And now he's 18 yards from the record. And the O-line's got to be out there. That record chasing stuff leaves a bad taste in my mouth sometimes. And I just think he would have gotten it, but I just think if you have bigger fish to fry, and like you said, they're healthy going into the Packers, and that's paramount.
Yeah, health is important. Now, I've been asked a lot about like the path to the Super Bowl this year. Look, it's tougher than it was in 22.
Yeah,
22 was about as easy as you could get. You had the first round bye, you had the Giants the next round, and then the 49ers were good. Once he knocked out the quarterback, it was pretty much game over. This is tougher. You have Packers first round, and then we'll see who they play the next round, but it's going to be tougher.
Yeah. And I mean, that's the way the NFC is just top heavy this year. Like there's a lot of really bad teams and there's a lot of really, really good teams. And 2 of them are going to play Sunday night. I still think it's not out of the question they could host the NFC Championship game.
Yeah, it's in play.
It's in play, and it wouldn't shock me. Lions are really, really banged up on the defensive side. Still not a complete believer in the Vikings, although maybe I should be.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I mean, they've won 14 games. I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, you got to be pretty good to do what they've done. But I mean, the Eagles are really good too, and they're rested. I think that's huge going into this game. The Packers had a tough game at Lambeau against the Bears. They ended up losing it. I just think that's so huge, having that bye week. And, we'll see if it pays off.
Yeah, it's kind of like you create your bye. It's like a made-up bye week.
Yeah.
And 14 that's had to play 12 straight weeks, it's a big deal.
It really is. And then you get the win as a bonus with the backups.
Yeah, it was a fun game. And
it was.
I think for the most part, the Eagles starters enjoyed watching them. And it was cold as heck out there. So I'm sure that part wasn't fun, just like sitting there on the sideline. There was the one TV shot of A.J. Brown maybe catching a few Z's.
Looked like it, yeah.
During that game, I understand.
Catch a little nap.
But early in the game, he was really engaged. There was one big first down where he's signaling first down. So, maybe a little both worlds for A.J. Brown in that game.
Yeah, as long as it doesn't do that next week.
I don't think you have to worry about that. But it's got to be cold when you're just standing there and not playing. At least the guys who are playing are moving and they're warming up.
Yeah. Oh, it looked like the O-line all had short sleeves on. That was.
It was so cold today. I give credit to any fans who were out there and stayed for the whole game, for like a game that had no say in the playoff standings. Like,
did you see Wash?
No.
Pregame?
No.
Wash had shorts on, had running shorts and a black T-shirt.
Gosh, it was cold. And my nose is still really red from being out there earlier.
So we were outside. I don't know what time you came down. I was over at radio, which is outside. It's a little protected, but we were outside from like 11:30. And then I was over at our pregame location, I guess, from 11:30 to whenever I finished with Ashland. So it was probably about 12:20. So I was out there for about an hour and a half, and I was cold. I didn't warm up till halftime. I mean, and I never complain about that stuff, but I'm going to complain because it was not pleasant.
Yeah, it was. It's tough when you get cold like that to warm back up.
Yeah.
I have my hiking boots on today, thick socks, and I brought like sneakers to change into at some point. Guess what I didn't do?
Yeah.
Yeah, the boots stayed on all game. I had my beanie on in the press box for most of the game. Yeah.
Anyway,
yeah, it's
going to be cold next weekend too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and look, I think both teams are fine with the cold. The Packers and the Eagles are certainly used to it by now.
Yeah.
We talked about the Packers a little bit. Week 1 was so long ago. It almost feels like it wasn't even this season.
It wasn't even this continent.
It definitely wasn't this continent. Talking to some Eagles players, like they've mentioned that, they're a very different team than they were in week 1, but there's still things to learn from that tape that long ago.
Yeah. Yeah. I heard that. I heard some of the players saying that. And my biggest concern with this matchup is they run the ball really well. And the Eagles late in the season were not a great run defense. They got a little leaky the last month or so. And that's a concern. If they come in and they're going to try to run the ball with, with Jacobs and those other guys, they got a big stable of them. And that's a concern. And I think the Eagles I don't think the Eagles really have a weakness, top to bottom.
I think they're the most complete team in the NFC.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Maybe the NFL, but that run defense needs to kind of figure some things out.
Okay.
So that's my big concern.
It was fun talking to Zach Bond about that week 1 game because that was kind of his coming out party.
Yeah.
In a way. At that point, like it was his first start for the Eagles as an inside linebacker. You didn't know what to expect. And he was all over the field.
Yeah, he was.
Down in Brazil. And it was really just like the catapult to a really impressive season.
Is that the game he had 2 sacks?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I just wrote his name in on my all-pro ballot in a couple places. I'm not supposed to give anything away, but can figure out what they are.
Okay. I was like all pro. Like he's didn't only play one position.
I got him at right guard. Yeah. I got him a couple places, but I really like the way the defense has played. Other than one quarter, that last quarter against the Commanders, that was really since the bye. They've just played really well.
And like we talked about, there's a world where we say, they didn't play great, but they made the play that mattered. You know what I mean? Like they made what they thought was going to be the game-ending play.
Yeah.
And it's just funny how a play on offense then puts them back on the field and goes. I mean, heck, if they win that game, they're playing their starters today.
It's true. Yeah, they wouldn't have a choice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, interesting point.
Yeah.
Either way, I mean, and then they could have ended up without a bye at all.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, what scares you about the Packers?
Jordan Love is still a good player. I've heard a lot of people debate whether you'd want to face him or Jaden Daniels. Jordan Love's done in the playoffs. I think that experience does matter. We've seen him play at a high level in these big games. So I agree that he hasn't had like the most consistent season, and We'll see how injured he is. We'll see how much it affects him without Christian Watson, who's kind of like a boomer bust player for them. But I think he's good. Now, it would be a heck of a lucky draw if they get an injured Jordan Love who's not as effective in the wild card round.
It's interesting as Jordan Love, his first 5 games this year had 15 touchdowns, and his last 11 games had 10. He was better for whatever reason early in the year, threw more picks as well. But he's not going to put up big numbers. I mean, he's not a big number guy. They want to run the ball, play defense, and have him complete some passes. But quarterback wise, I'd be more concerned with Jaden Daniels. Even though he's a rookie and you like your chances.
What did you like, injuries aside, because obviously that can change things. What did you think that the Commanders or the Packers would be a better first round draw?
I think it's close, but I probably was leaning Washington
as the better for the Eagles.
Better draw for the Eagles.
Yeah, me too.
But I'm not so sure.
I was a definite there, honestly, because a couple of weeks ago we saw the Eagles nearly beat them without Jalen,
with their backup quarterback.
So I mean, it took like a wacky series of events for the Commanders to win that game,
and that was my thinking.
Mm-hmm.
But I certainly think the Packers are beatable, and I mean, the Eagles beat Washington once and probably should have beaten them twice. Didn't, but I think they would have beaten either team. Yeah.
I do too. And look, if you're gonna get to the Super Bowl, you're gonna have to play good teams. You have to beat them. So certainly, you want the easiest road possible. That's why you try to get the number 1 seed. But if you can't beat the Packers, you don't deserve to go to. You don't deserve to go to. You know what I mean? You don't deserve to be there.
Yeah.
Okay. We'll talk about the Packers a bunch later in the week. Want to tell everyone we have a fun event coming up on Wednesday, 7 p.m. at Stinger's Waterfront in Ridley Park. A live Q&A, playoff Q&A. We'll have a much different tone than the one we did last year as they got ready to face the Buccaneers. It'll be myself, Rube, Barrett Brooks, Ashlyn Sullivan. It'll be a lot of fun.
I remember the one we did last year. We were in Center City somewhere, and people were looking for hope, and we're like, they're going to get killed.
Yeah, and we were right. Yeah,
and we were right. But this will be fun. This Stingers is right off 95. You can see it going south. I think just past the airport. Somebody told me exit 8, I guess. But yeah, it kind of looks like a cool place.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Those Q&As are always fun.
Yeah, that'll be fun. So come on out. I assume we'll be streaming it as well.
Mm-hmm. Of course.
We'll take questions from the stream, and we'll take questions live there.
Yeah.
So
always a lot of fun.
Just text Dave.
Don't do that.
His number is 609.
All right, let's talk about this game because it was a fun game. I think we start with Tanner McKee. We were all excited to watch Tanner, and he lived up to it. Yeah. It wasn't a perfect game, but he's out there with a backup offensive line.
That wasn't very good.
With that, I thought they were serviceable. Without A.J. Brown, without Devontae Smith, and he still looked good.
Yeah, he's impressive. And, we saw it going back to his rookie year in OTAs and training camp. He's just got something. There's something there. You start with his size, which he kind of used to bat down that ball. He got up over everybody. But he's
a volleyball player on that.
Yeah. He's accurate. I like how he throws the ball to guys in stride. They can catch it in stride.
There was that one out-breaking route to the right sideline, just a perfect ball.
Yeah, that was on the 3rd and 15.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. He throws a really good out, which is a tough throw for a young quarterback. He throws it accurately. He had a couple in harm's way. That I know you have that stat of ball passes that should have been picked
turnover worthy play.
Turnover worthy. I probably had a couple of those in the second half.
He's forcing it a little bit.
Yeah, and things got a little shaky there in the third quarter. I like how he kind of worked through that. You like to see that. Accurate and used. I mean, he's out there with guys who've never played. I mean, Will Shipley had never caught a pass before this game. I think he had 6 for 40 yards or something. Dotson hasn't done anything. He looked really good. Smith, his first touchdown. EJ Jenkins, his first catch goes for a touchdown. So he's out there with guys who haven't played. And
going against the Giants starters for the most part.
Going against the Giants starters. I was really impressed. And I tell you what, he can play. And I love his poise. I love his arm strength. I love his accuracy. He's got great anticipation. He knows where the routes are going, routes, whatever you want to call them.
Routes.
And he gets the ball there. And I think he was making the receivers better. Just, you had guys who haven't really played in the league. He was getting them the ball where they could make plays. And there's no doubt in my mind he's a starting caliber quarterback in the NFL. And we'll see what happens with, I think he's too good to be 3 next year.
I think he's too good to be 3 right now.
That's fair.
I don't think they will do it, but I think they have a built-in reason to make him the backup quarterback entering the playoffs. Kenny Pickett is hurt. He has a ribs injury. A healthy Tanner McKee, you can maybe take the injuries away. I think Tanner McKee's better
Yeah.
than Kenny Pickett. Certainly, he's better than Kenny Pickett with the ribs injury.
It's an interesting question. I don't think they'll do it, but you can certainly make that case. I think I just made it on the post-game show. I think he's a better quarterback than Kenny Pickett, period.
Mhm.
And like Kenny Pickett didn't do anything to like lose his job.
And I even think Kenny looked good when he played.
Yeah, he did. I mean, he put up 26 in Washington and whatever he put up here before he left the game. I think it was 27 when he left the game against Dallas. By the way, Tanner McKee, the first quarterback in Eagles history to throw 4 touchdowns in his first 2 career games. Carson threw 3.
Pittsburgh game, right?
Oh gosh, I forget who the first 2 games of
Oh, that might have been the third game.
I think it was the Browns and the Bears, maybe.
Yeah.
Certainly played better than he is right now. And then a guy did it during a scab game, during a replacement game in '87, Scott Tinsley, but I don't count that, even though the NFL does. But yeah, and the second best numbers for a first career start, just behind Carson in 16. But this is a 6th-round pick.
Who's playing with backup players.
Playing with backup players some of whom have never been in these roles before. His poise is real. His poise and just that sense of belonging. He just plays like he belongs. And for a young guy, that's unusual. He's really just, and you look at Stanford, like I think he won 6 games in his career. And then you look around what he had. He did not have good players around him. He was on bad teams. He did his best. But you put him on this team. Yeah, I'd love to see him in a full game with Devontae and AJ and Dallas and that O-line and Saquon. Scary what he would put up.
Yeah, I think he'd be fine. I think he'd be better than Kenny. And that's, like I said, it's not a shot at Kenny Pickett.
Yeah.
I think Tanner McKee is their second best quarterback.
I agree.
Today he goes 27 for 40, 27 to 41, 269 yards, 2 touchdowns, long of 19. So it wasn't even like a big chunk in there.
Yeah.
Passer rating of 100.6.
Yeah. And that 19 was on that 3rd and 15. And yeah. And most importantly, didn't turn the ball over. Just in command the whole game.
Yeah. Another, like you mentioned, there was the one where it was like I don't know how they didn't pick. There was like 3 Giants defenders and the one guy knocked it away from the other.
Right.
22 was looking at him like, dude, I had a pick and you knocked it away.
Yeah.
But he played well.
Yeah, it was impressive.
Jahan Dotson, 7 catches on 11 targets for 94 yards. So he's not incapable of catching the football.
No, but he needs a quarterback to trust him. And Tanner did. And I'm sure they've gotten work on scout team. And they've got a little chemistry. For whatever reason, Jalen just doesn't trust Jahan Dotson.
And I think it's like the design of the play isn't like sometimes he's the deep read in it and Jalen's not getting there.
Right. And also Tanner didn't have anyone else to throw to. Jalen does. Yeah. So there's that. But it was good to see him look like a real NFL receiver. I mean, he almost had as many yards today as he had in the first 16 games.
Yeah, he had 122 coming in. He had 94 today.
Yeah, so 28 fewer yards than he did all year.
He had 22 targets all year. He had 11 today.
Yeah, so a third of his targets as an Eagle were in this game.
Look, I give him credit for being ready.
He's handled this really well. He's handled this here really well. Did you have a chance to talk to him?
I did, yeah. And that's, he basically talked about, he has to just prepare and hope the ball comes his way, be ready for it when it does. And I don't know if it's going to find him in the playoffs. I think there's a good chance it doesn't.
Yeah.
But in this game, if you're trying to like get something from it, I think you look at him and think if the ball finds him in the playoffs, he'll be able to make a play.
Yeah. Yeah. And I hope Jalen kind of feels that way. I like how he got some yards after the catch in traffic. Yeah, I thought he played tough. I thought
he looked good as a punt returner too.
He did.
Pretty smooth.
Yeah. Yeah. So that was certainly encouraging. Plus, there's the fact that he signed, you have him for next year.
Yeah.
So he's going to be here. He's going to be on the team. He'll probably be your number 3. And we'll see what they do in the draft and all that. But I think today was pretty encouraging from that standpoint.
Yeah. Dallas Goedert comes back after missing 4 games on IR with the knee injury. Played 2 series. 1 series would have been fine by me. I was thinking, like, get him the heck out of this game.
Yeah, I was surprised he came out for that second series.
Yeah, but they got him the ball. First catch of the game, 16 yards, first play of the game. Ends up with 4 for 55. Looks good.
Looked really good. Yeah. And you kind of forget how good he is because just hasn't played much. And this year when he's played, there's been some games where he just hasn't, the ball just hasn't come his way. This is actually his 4th best game of the year, yardage-wise. I only played 2 series. He's a weapon, and it was just good to see him out there running around and making some plays.
Yeah, and on a per-game basis, I think this is his 3rd highest yards per game of his career. So,
well, and half of it was in that one game. He had like 171 or something.
Yeah,
but yeah,
that counts.
Sure.
Yeah, the New Orleans game, but I think he's had a good season when he's been healthy. It's just he can't stay healthy now, but he's healthy and they're going in the playoffs, so it's a good place to be in for the Eagles offense.
Yeah, and he looked good.
Will Shipley showed some wiggle on that one catch. He caught 4 passes today, which we saw
5. He had 4.
4 for 35.
Okay.
Showed some wiggle on that one. We saw that in training camp. He hasn't had a lot of opportunities all year. And it's funny because you look around the league and there's a lot of running backs who get drafted where he gets drafted, who play right away and are productive. But he's behind Saquon Barkley and Kenny Gainwell, who's a really good number 2. So I understand why he hasn't had those opportunities.
I'm not sure what kind of runner he'll be in the league, but I think he's a weapon as a receiver. I mean, he's got soft hands. He catches it really well, and he's quick. He's got a little juice to him when he catches it, and he's tough. Like he's taking on contact, fighting for extra yards. He's a fun player, and I could see him being like a significant. I'm not saying a huge role. And look, Gainwell, I don't know if he'll be here next year. His contract's up. Most likely won't be, I would guess. So I could see him being a guy that catches 30 or 40 balls next year. Yeah,
I don't know. It's possible. Early in the season, even in that week 1 game, they ran some 21 personnel, and that package went the way of the dodo.
Yeah, it did.
Anything else on offense?
What happened to the dodo?
Extinct.
But I mean, when was that? Do you know what year? Was it like in the turn of the century?
What century?
The 20th century. Like dodo extinct. When did the dodo get extinct?
In the 1600s.
Okay, so it was the turn of the century, just the wrong century.
Yeah.
There's got to be one somewhere.
No, that's not how that works.
So the first sighting
1681.
This says 1662. The last widely accepted sighting of a dodo was in 1662.
Oh, okay.
Its extinction was not immediately noticed, and some consider the bird to be a myth. Interesting. The mythical dodo.
Apathy about the dodo. That's not great.
Maybe they should have dodo races at halftime instead of.
Take that back. Anything else on offense you wanted to hit?
No, we kind of covered it.
The moment of the game was Darian Kennard getting Boogie Basham on that offsides.
Yeah, that was good.
And my favorite part about it is, you know what Jeff Stoutland calls them, those plays?
No.
Ooga Booga Booga. So they got Boogie Basham on an Ooga Booga Booga.
Okay. Giants had a couple of those they fell for.
Yeah.
The one on 4th down was hilarious.
I mean, that was the best one, though, because like the entire offensive line is celebrating.
Yeah.
They're signaling first down. They're going after it. It was fun.
I think that's when AJ did that demonstration.
Was it?
Yeah. That was.
That was a fun moment. Trevor Keegan got his first NFL snaps. He'd been inactive the first 16 games.
Okay.
So he didn't even start the game. Tyler Steen started at left guard, but then they got Trevor Keegan out there. He got in the game before that as like an extra blocker. You mentioned EJ Jenkins, his first catch is a touchdown. Good for him. He's put a lot of work in.
Yeah.
Anyone else on offense you want to hit?
Well, Nice Smith.
Oh, yeah. He got his first touchdown, 4 for 35.
So look up the last time 2 Eagles had their first career touchdown in the same game.
That's fun. Defense.
Yeah.
Oren Burks finished with 17 tackles.
All over the field.
17 tackles, Oren Burks.
It was like Van Sumeren-esque.
Like preseason, though. This is a regular season game.
It was, yeah.
Trotter
he's
had
a good player.
11.
Oren Burks is a good player. He's a good, solid backup linebacker.
Mm-hmm. Jordan Davis.
I like the way Trot played.
I did too.
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought Jordan Davis played a heck of a game.
He did.
Now, you just can't sit everybody.
Right.
Especially at those rotational positions. And like Jordan Davis said after the game, I'm the only real nose we have. I knew I was going to have to play.
And he embraced it. I like that.
He not only, I mean, it tells you a lot how well he played in that game. And it was like hustle plays. He's like sniffing out screens and tracing back on them. Like that's what you want to see from a veteran out there when a lot of his buddies are not playing. You want to see that effort, and he gave it.
Yeah, and he remains the only Eagle that started every game the last 2 years. Jordan Davis. Little trivia.
He ended up playing 21 snaps in this game.
It seemed like more, but yeah, I think he had 5 tackles. He had that big 5-yard loss.
Tackle for loss, yeah.
He's had a fine season. And if you had to do it over, would you draft him where you drafted him? No. But He's a good player.
He's a functional player.
Yeah.
And he's helping them. Anyone else on defense? I thought Sidney Brown had some rough moments.
Well,
he plays with his hair on fire, and sometimes he gets ahead of the skis a little bit.
Yeah. And that's a good
But
way.
he picked the ball off.
That was a nice athletic play that he made at the end. And that's what you're going to get from Sidney Brown.
Mm-hmm.
He was trying to get these kill shots in instead of just make the tackle.
Yeah.
Just
wrap
the guy up and make a form tackle. You don't have to try to get on like the highlights with every, but
I kind of get it. Like, you've been waiting all year to play. You want to make an impact, but got to calm down, settle in a little bit.
I like Keely Ringo. He's a fun player to watch. I think he's going to be a good corner in this league.
Yeah, it was fun to watch him today. Eli Ricks got
that great play on punt coverage too. Yeah,
he's a really good gunner. 5th alternate for the Pro Bowl.
Yeah, well, you never know.
I think we know. That's the one thing you don't need to go 5 alternates on, because you're a specialist. You're going. You're excited about that Pro Bowl.
I had to go too deep on long snappers on my All-Pro ballot.
That's tough.
And I just went with the long snappers for the top 2 kickers. I just figured, I don't know.
Yeah.
What am I going to do? Watch film?
Ask Rick Lovato.
I could do that.
Yeah. Talked to Rick about long snappers for a while.
Yeah.
Looking at the snap counts here, Milton Williams played 15. Jalix Hunt played 18. So you kind of see what they were doing there. They want to they're in there to spell those other guys, but like Charles Harris plays 41. You're getting the work out of him. How about this? Bryce Huff played 46.
Did he? Eagles didn't have any sacks, I don't think.
No.
Can I make an admission? It might hurt my career. I thought they cut Charles Harris. I didn't realize he was on the team.
He's on the practice squad.
Yeah, but I missed when they re-signed him.
Oh, it was like the next day.
I whiffed on that.
Yeah.
But then again, I don't get the text.
And you're looking out.
I look out there and I'm like, when did they get him back?
Yeah.
Yeah. But I hope you don't think any less of me.
I couldn't possibly.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Should we mention like who didn't play at all and who was inactive?
Sure. On offense, the whole O-line didn't play. I don't even remember who was inactive and who wasn't, but the whole O-line didn't play. Obviously, no Jalen. He was out with a concussion. No AJ, no Devontae. The only starter on offense no Saquon, obviously. The only starter on offense who played was Dallas Goedert, and that's because he missed the last 4 games.
And McKee. Well, we'll see.
Saquon had his 2K Say shirt on before the game.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah. I would have loved to know what's going on in his head. I mean, he had to have really mixed feelings.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah.
But, safe and sound on the sideline.
That ship sailed, right? Like,
something to be said for that.
Will Shipley sailed.
The Shipley sailed.
I hate that we're both thinking of the same stupid puns.
It is. It's week 19 or whatever it is. Week 18. There's no week 19. Anything else on defense? Special teams?
Let's mention the guys who didn't play on defense.
Oh, yeah.
No Jalen Carter. No Darius Slay. No no Quinion Mitchell. No Cooper DeJean. No Nakobe Dean. No Zach Bond. No Jalen Carter. No Josh Sweat. No Nolan Smith.
Yeah.
That's all of them, right?
That's everybody. Yeah.
Now the starters who did play: Milton Williams, Jordan Davis, rotational guys. That was it. And I didn't mention the safeties. No, Reed or CJ.
Sure. To hold the Giants to 238 yards with one starter, and I know. I mean, it didn't even look like Eagles backups are better than their starters, but they locked up the number 1 defense in the league by 600 yards.
I picked the Giants to win this game.
Did you?
Yeah,
I did. Did you really? I picked them to win the last one. So
I figured it'd be like the most Giants thing to do to win this game and screw up their draft.
They were trying to lose
more.
But the Eagles finished with, I don't know if I said this before, the number 1 pass defense in the league and the number 1 defense for the first time since 91. So, and
they have anyone good on that team?
And that's the thing. Like, that team had, like, I don't know, 7 Pro Bowlers and like a Hall of Famer and another guy that should be a Hall of Fame. I mean, that was like Jerome and Reggie and Clyde and Seth and Andre and Wes Hopkins and Byron Evans and Andy Harmon. And that was William Thomas's rookie year. I mean, that was a veteran, superstar-laden defense. I don't know who I'm forgetting. But that was, just an incredible Reggie White, I guess I should mention.
Who's that?
Reggie White. He was
I think I've heard.
He was an edge rusher back when they called him defensive ends because they were 290 and they played the run. But that was a defense that had been together a long time. Bud Carson comes in, like this year, new coordinator. How about that? The last 2 times they've had the number 1 defense, it's been with a new defensive coordinator. And Vic is older than Bud Carson was then, interestingly.
Oh, wow.
But this is you look at this defense and like some of the guys you just mentioned, Quignon and Cooper are rookies. Zach Bond's playing a new position. Nolan and Nakobe are first-year starters, essentially. Nakobe started a few games last year, but it was nowhere near this. So many new pieces and just pieces that are new in general. You have like guys who've never played NFL football before on defense, and it all came together after week 4. And, I give Howie a lot of credit as much as I don't want to, but, see this team it's Howie. Yeah. He put it together and Vic knew exactly what to do with it. And to be the number 1 defense with the youngest defense in the league and the 7 new starters or 7 guys playing new positions or new starters. It's remarkable.
It's the story of the season, really.
I agree.
Because you think back to all offseason, we're talking about if this defense can just be average, they have star power on offense. They just can't be a disaster like they were late in 23. We're talking like just get to league average, and they're the best defense in the league. It's unbelievable.
And no team has ever, they were 26 last year. No team has ever made that big a jump
to number 1.
To number 1. So a lot to be impressed by with this group.
Anything else from this game? Jake Elliott missed a 39-yarder. It was windy today, and the wind did seem to be going that way. You still don't want to see him miss that kick.
Yeah, and he had been doing better.
They had Braden Mann kicking off today. I would think they'll probably go back to Jake Elliott next week.
Yeah. Elliott kicked one of them, didn't he? I don't know. I thought he kicked one, like the third one or something. But, and 14 wins is, you tie the franchise record.
That they set a couple years ago.
2 years ago. So
to win 14 games 2 times in 4 years under Nick Sirianni is pretty damn impressive.
Well, 2 times in 3 years, but in his 4 years.
4 years, yeah.
And he's one of 6 coaches to make the playoffs his first 4 years, which, that was true before this game. But, they do have to win. Nick's got to win this game Sunday or whenever it is, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, probably be Sunday. But they're in a good place. Yeah. I like their chances.
I do too. All right, let's take a break. We have some questions. We don't normally do questions on a post-game pod, but there wasn't much else to talk about today. So we'll get the questions on the other side.
You deserve a car that thrills you, a car that puts goosebumps on your goosebumps. At Nissan, we've got everything from turbocharged SUVs to 100% electric vehicles that'll make your heart beat faster. Experience the thrill for yourself and shop your local Nissan store and NissanUSA.com today.
All right, we're back on the Eagle Eye podcast. This is where I tell you guys, if you have a question for us, you can email us at eagleeye@NBCUni. That's NBCUNI.com. If you're watching on YouTube, you have that QR code. You can scan that and send us a question that way. We didn't get to these during the week, so I figured this will be a good opportunity to answer some. The first one from Bernie, addressed to me, but we can both answer it. Dave, I just read your piece on Kellen's perspective of Saquon's season. What are your thoughts on Kellen's season? For as much has been said about Saquon breaking the record against New York, you reminded me that Kellen calling the plays has a lot to do with it, and that he was able to see Saquon cross 2K against his own former team, who they also let go because they wanted to run the ball. What do you think of Kellen's season?
I think up and down. I think that they certainly had more injuries on that side of the ball that affected their ability to kind of generate chemistry. They had some lulls. Some games they were really slow to get started up until the last couple of weeks. I think he's been good. I expected a little more from the offense.
I agree with that. And you could say they underperformed at times because they have all this star power, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, ultimately, I did see enough new things in this offense, which is why you brought him here, because you were getting way too stagnant and stale under the previous scheme. So I think we've seen enough of that. I don't think it's been like groundbreaking stuff, but it got them back to like league average in some of those, like whether it's motion or formations, like it got them back to doing what normal offenses do.
Yeah.
I think that's good.
And it's funny because I think They were 7th in offense last year, and they're 7th this year. We'll have to see the final numbers tomorrow, but they didn't really get better. They didn't get worse, but they were more consistent, I guess.
Yeah, obviously the numbers say they didn't get better. I think they did get better
in some things. Obviously, running the ball, and they're a weird team because they're just so run heavy. So the numbers can look weird. Like a good run, you're getting 5 yards, or a good pass play, you're getting 15.
I will say I don't think Kellen's been like so great that he's going to be like a hot head coaching candidate.
I was just going to say
he might get some interviews, and look, you never know. If you get an interview, you could get hired, but it's not like a crazy fear right now that he's going to get hired away.
Yeah, I don't expect him to be a hot name. I'll tell you what. I mean,
I would think he'll get some interviews,
possibly, but I don't think he's going to get hired.
And that would be a big deal for the Eagles, keeping him around for another year.
Yeah.
Okay. Next question from Scott. Hey guys, we're longtime listeners here in Georgia via Trenton, New Jersey, and my son and I love the pod. We never miss a chance to mimic Rube's sleigh every chance we get.
That's really sad.
Yeah. This is another question about Kellen Moore. Assuming the Eagles go deep in the playoffs or even win the Super Bowl, what kind of interest do you think will be out there for him? If there's like 6 or 7 spots, do you think he has a shot at it? Or do you think it's good that he might stay here?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think it's always good to have continuity from year to year, and they haven't had a lot of that. I mean, they've just had so many coordinators on both sides of the ball, partly because guys get hired after 22 and guys get fired after 23. Mm-hmm. And in one case, in the middle of 23 or with a month left. But when you have a talent like Matt Patricia. Anyway, I always think it's good to keep good coaches. Yeah, and I do. I think there's a good chance they'll be back.
Mm-hmm. Next question from Paul. As I told you before, I really enjoy the show and the banter between the two of you. Especially loved Rube's face when Dave was going on about the poor flight pattern of Lincoln the Eagle. With nothing on the line this week, an off-season question. With the Eagles' history of not prioritizing the linebacker position, I wouldn't expect them to invest in both Zach Bond and Nakobe Dean. Which is more likely? Re-signing Bond or extending Dean after the season? I think it will be extending Dean because he was drafted here and would probably cost less. Also, Dave, I love the Sasquatch hat. Is there a story that goes along with the hat? I don't have the hat on now. I have a hat with a Sasquatch on it. Bought it in Washington. I just think it's cool.
Washington State,
yes.
Okay. Where were you?
I don't remember exactly where I was. I was on a road trip up there. I like that they have it's kind of like a logo of the Pacific Northwest. I think that's cool.
What was the other question? I forgot already.
The linebackers more likely to extend Nakobe or re-sign Zach Bond.
Yeah, I'm going to say. I mean, I'd love to see him do both. Obviously, Zach Bond's more pressing. He's not signed next year. I talked to him on Thursday about he really wants to be back. He's talked about how much he loves it here. How much he loves his teammates, Nakobe being one of them. They're really close. I don't know if I ever told this story about Zach told me what his first day that he got signed, he came into the NovaCare, and the first guy that saw him was Nakobe. And they were like, yeah, I'm Nakobe. I'm Zach. Let's get to work. And they just went to work and they never stopped. I think Zach Bond signing is more likely.
I do too. They can't let him go.
Can't.
And if I'm Vic Fangio, I'm in Howie's office every day until they do it.
Yeah. Threatening to quit.
You gotta get him back.
Got to.
Yeah. And like you mentioned, Nakobe has another year. So cross that bridge when you get to it. Yeah. You can extend him. You don't have to.
Yeah.
Right now.
And I think, Howie isn't in the business of letting, I know it's a linebacker, but he doesn't let good young players go. He just doesn't.
It's like, imagine this defense without Zach Bond.
I can't. Well, Oren Burks is look pretty good, but no,
he's not Zach Bond.
He's not Zach Bond.
Yeah. And I don't think it's like a fluke season. I think this is
either.
Who he's going to be for the next 5 years.
He was too consistently good.
Mm-hmm. And it is funny they're playing the Packers because that was the first game where like, wait a second, is he going to be this good?
I'll never forget standing at OTAs with you, and we're like, what's he doing? How come it's not Devin White and Nakobe?
It was cool to Devin White. Gosh, it was cool to talk to Zach Bond after this game. It was nice enough for him to stop and speak with us because he didn't play. But his perspective on being one of the guys who didn't play, he's like, a couple years ago, I'm playing in this game.
Yeah, if I heard him say, if I'm with the Saints, I'm playing in this game.
Yeah,
that's great perspective.
It is.
Yeah, what a story, unbelievable.
Next question from Matt. Hi, Dave and Rube. Very much enjoy your pod. On a previous
Thank you.
episode, you mentioned that the Eagles monitor player nutrition, sleep, and hydration. I thought this was something Chip Kelly implemented, and the players hated it. How did the Eagles get the players to buy into it? Was it just a matter of getting rid of Chip Kelly?
Well, Chip had some good ideas as far as those things you just mentioned, nutrition and hydration, and they kept his good ideas and they got rid of everything else, including him. But hey, he brought Stout in, so certainly left the legacy a little bit. Did some good things while he was here. He just was a terrible general manager. But they still have the smoothie stand outside the locker. That started when Chip was here. Chip wanted guys to get 10 hours sleep every night. You're not going to get 23, 25-year-old guys to sleep 10 hours a night. It might have been 12. It was some ridiculous. And so I think there was some resentment there because they would measure it and the guys would go in and the trainers would be like, you didn't sleep enough last night. But as far as hydration, and they track how much they run at practice with GPS, all that stuff is really valuable.
Yeah, the more information you have, the better.
Yeah, and it started with Chip.
Yeah, he deserves credit for that. Yeah. Absolutely. We'll do a few more here. Next one from Alex. Hi, gents. Big Eagles fan from Leeds, England, now living in Vancouver, BC.
Wow.
Other than Reggie White.
I love Vancouver. You've been there, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like it a lot. Other than Reggie White, if you could bring back one great Eagle of the past in their prime to supplement this current team ahead of the playoff run, who would you pick? Peak Fletcher next to Jalen Carter? Dawkins playing with CJ/GJ? Thanks for the pod. You inform and entertain the fans without being condescending, which is rarer than you think.
Oh, shut up.
Who would you pick? That's not fun. I like these hypotheticals.
Yeah, well, I would look at a position where maybe they could use some, and they don't really have a weak position, but maybe like an interior lineman. Maybe how about bring Jerome Brown back? Throw him out there with.
That'd be good. I was thinking edge rusher. What about like a Trent Cole?
Trent Cole's a good one.
Yeah.
If you're going to bring an edge, well, yeah. How about Brandon Graham?
Yeah, I think edge rusher would make some sense.
Yeah. That's another concern. Yeah, they picked it up in the middle of the season, and I'm not going to count today, but last week I think they had 4 sacks in the last 3 games. Something to keep an eye on.
Yeah, I agree with that. Think Bryce Huff can give them anything in the playoffs? It'd be a great story if he did.
Yeah, we'll see. I'm not super optimistic.
Yeah, I think that's fair. One more?
Yeah.
Okay.
Or even 2.
Okay, we'll do 2 more just because you want that. From Robert. Hey, Dave and Rube. It's well known that the team's players and coaches play a lot of basketball in the facility. My question is, do either of you know if Cooper DeJean is the best basketball player on the team?
I don't know if they play basketball. They might shoot.
They shoot shots a lot. Yeah. I know Cooper, like his high school highlights are pretty crazy. Yeah. Jalen Carter has some pretty wild, like dunking highlights. I think Johnny Wilson was a basketball player. EJ Jenkins, a basketball player. Tight ends are normally like the body type to be good at basketball.
Right. A lot of them played basketball.
Yeah, I think EJ Jenkins did, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Donovan was on Syracuse's team that went to the Final Four.
Yeah. Back in the day, Connor Barwin was a basketball player at Cincinnati.
Barrett Brooks told me that he played at Kansas State for a year.
Yeah, he told me that once. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Boyko used to have that Eagles basketball team. They would go and play different schools, like school faculties and fire departments and stuff. And man, there were some great players. But who was that receiver from Penn State? He was incredible. Jordan Norwood, remember him?
Mm-hmm.
He was a hell of a basketball player. But yeah, I mean, Cooper, yeah, would probably be the guy. I mean, he looked unbelievable.
Yeah, and I'm sure some of the receivers have good shots.
Yeah,
I would think.
Yeah.
Okay. One more here from John. Birds fan in Minnesota here. I appreciate the way you keep the non-local fan base informed on our favorite team. Has there ever been a push for the NFL to follow baseball's lead and have an MVP for each league? Major League Baseball has always had 2 since 1911. If the NFL would have one for the AFC and one for the NFC, Saquon wouldn't be competing against Josh Allen, Burrow, and Lamar, and he'd probably edge out Goff and Darnold. He's having an all-time great season, but won't get the rushing record or MVP. If they win the Super Bowl, none of those accolades will matter. But if they don't, we'll be talking about this for many years.
Well, the difference is baseball awards are officially baseball's awards, like Major League Baseball awards, the Cy Young and MVP and Gold Gloves and all that stuff. Football doesn't. So the AP does the
It becomes like the de facto
does the all-pro team. Yeah.
And the MVP and all the awards.
MVP, Offensive Player of the Year, Rookie, Defensive Assistant Coach of the Year. All that stuff goes through AP and has since like for over 100 years. So I like the idea of one MVP. I know there used to be like there's 2 Cy Young awards and all that, but I kind of like having just one. I
kind of do too.
Yeah.
And in baseball for so long, like you didn't have AL and NL playing each other, so it really was separate.
Right.
So it made it. And I know that's changed obviously with interleague play, but it made more sense to have 2 different MVPs.
I always hated interleague play because, like, when I was a kid, it would be such a treat to like see an American League team.
Mm-hmm.
Like, wow, we're going to get to see the Orioles on like Monday Night Baseball. Like, you get to see Brooks Robinson and Boog Powell and Tom Chopay, Bobby Grich. Sound like Jim Schwartz
right now.
But yeah, I kind of like having one MVP. Although it's lining up my top 5 MVPs is one of the hardest things I've done.
It's a tough thing this year too.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for all the questions. eagle@nbcuni.com. We'll get to more of those in the week as we start getting ready for the Eagles-Packers game. The playoffs are finally here.
It's very exciting.
Soon. One other thing I wanted to mention before we wrap this up. Congrats to Rodney McLeod. Played his final football game today. Very cool. Or last night, Saturday.
Yeah, one of our favorite guys.
Yeah.
Class act. And I'll tell you what, I don't think they win the Super Bowl without he made 2 open field tackles on Gronk in that game. Both saved touchdowns and turned into field goals and probably saved that game. Yeah. He was a really good player. And
I have one more treat for you. If you're watching on YouTube, it's a treat for you. If you're listening, I'll try to tell you what happened. This is during Birds Huddle game day today, right before you walked over.
I heard about this.
Yeah. Here's the video. You have to watch it.
Let's see it.
This is my avoiding a football during pregame. It's worth it. And I think what has been lost a lot of times in this conversation, as I almost die from a football, a lot of things that have been lost here is that it's not just Saquon Barkley's health. Yeah. Pretty close.
Apparently. And well, I mean, that one was bouncing off what the
I don't know what it hit.
The wall there.
Yeah.
I almost got hit by an errant field goal attempt, and apparently Isaiah Rodgers.
He saved you
a month ago.
I was watching.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So thank you, Isaiah. He had a nice return, by the way, today.
He absolutely did. All right. Any final words here?
No, man. I'm stoked. I'm stoked for the week, stoked for Sunday or whenever it is. Probably Sunday.
Yeah, probably Sunday. One more time, a reminder, come out on
this is going to be fun.
On Wednesday, 7 o'clock, Stingers Waterfront, Ridley Park. Myself, Rube, Barrett, Ashlyn, all out there for a live Q&A as we get ready for Eagles-Packers next week. That's all the time we have today for the Eagle Eye Podcast presented by Nissan. For Reuben Frank, I'm Dave Zangaro. We'll talk to you soon.